قالوا إنا تطيرنا بكم لئن لم تنتهوا لنرجمنكم وليمسنكم منا عذاب أليم. قالوا طائركم معكم إن ذكرتم بل أنتم قوم مسرفون. وجاء من أقصى المدينة رجل يسعى قال يا قوم اتبعوا المرسلين اتبعوا من لا يسألكم أجرا وهم مهتدون. وما لي لا أعبد الذي فطرني وإليه ترجعون. أأتخذ من دونه آلهة إن يردني الرحمن بضر لا تغن عني شفاعتهم شيئا ولا ينقذون. إني إذا لفي ضلال مبين. إني آمنت بربكم فاسمعون. قيل ادخل الجنة قال يا ليت قومي يعلمون بما غفر لي ربي وجعلني من المكرمين. وما أنزلنا على قومه من بعده من جند من السماء وما كنا منزلين. إن كانت إلا صيحة واحدة فإذا هم خالدون. يا حسرة على العباد ما يأتيهم من رسول إلا كانوا به يستهزئون. أولم يروا كم أهلكنا قبلهم من القرون إنهم إليهم لا يرجعون. وإن كل لما جميع لدينا محضرون. وآية لهم الأرض الميتة أحييناها وأخرجنا منها حبا فمنه يأكلون. وجعلنا فيها جنات من نخيل وأعناب وفجرنا فيها من العيون ليأكلوا من ثمره وما عملته أيديهم أفلا يشكرون. سبحان الذي خلق الأزواج كلها مما تنبت الأرض ومن أنفسهم ومما لا يعلمون. وآية لهم الليل نسلخ منه النهار فإذا هم مظلمون. والشمس تجري لمستقر لها ذلك تقدير العزيز العليم. والقمر قدرناه منازل حتى عاد كالعرجون القديم. لا الشمس ينبغي لها أن تدرك القمر ولا الليل سابق النهار وكل في فلك يسبحون. وآية لهم إنا حملنا ذريتهم في الفلك المشحون وخلقنا لهم من مثله ما يركبون وإن نشأ نغرقهم فلا صريخ لهم ولا هم ينقذون إلا رحمة الله ومتاعا إلى حين. وإذا قيل لهم اتقوا ما بين أيديكم وما خلفكم لعلكم ترحمون. وما تأتيهم من آية من آيات ربهم إلا كانوا عنها معرضين. وإذا قيل لهم انفقوا مما رزقكم الله قال الذين آمنوا أنطعم من لو يشاء الله أطعمه إن أنتم إلا في ضلال مبين ويقولون متى هذا الوعد إن كنتم صادقين ما ينظرون إلا صيحة واحدة تأخذهم وهم يخصمون ولا يستطيعون توصية ولا إلى أهلهم يرجعون ونفخ في الصور فإذا هم من الأجداث إلى ربهم ينسلون قالوا يا ويلنا من بعثنا من مرقدنا هذا ما وعد الرحمن وصدق المرسلون إن كانت إلا صيحة واحدة فإذا هم جميع لدينا محضرون فاليوم لا تظلم نفس شيئا ولا تجزون إلا ما كنتم تعملون إن أصحاب الجنة اليوم في شغل فاكهون هم وأزواجهم في ظلال على الأرائك متكئون لهم فيها فاكهة ولهم فيها ما يدعون سلام قول من رب رحيم وامتازوا اليوم أيها المجرمون ألم أعهد إليكم يا بني آدم ألا تعبدوا الشيطان إنه لكم عدو مبين وأن اعبدوني هذا صراط مستقيم ولقد أضل منكم جبلا كثيرا أفلم تكونوا تعقلون هذه جهنم التي كنتم توعدون اصلوها اليوم بما كنتم تكفرون اليوم نختم على أفواههم وتكلمنا أيديهم وتشهد أرجلهم بما كانوا يكسبون ولو نشاء لطمسنا على أعينهم فاستبقوا الصراط فأنى يبصرون ولو نشاء لمسخناهم على مكانتهم فما استطاعوا مضيا ولا يرجعون ومن نعمره ننكسه في الخلق أفلا يعقلون وما علمناه الشعر وما ينبغي له إن هو إلا ذكر وقرآن مبين لينذر من كان حيا ويحق القول على الكافرين أولم يروا إنا خلقنا لهم مما عملت أيدينا أنعاما فهم لها مالكون وذللناها لهم فمنها ركوبهم ومنها يأكلون ولهم فيها منافع ومشارب أفلا يشكرون واتخذوا من دون الله آلهة لعلهم ينصرون لا يستطيعون نصرهم وهم لهم جند محضرون فلا يحزنك قولهم إنا نعلم ما يسرون وما يعلنون أولم يرى الإنسان أنا خلقناه من نطفة فإذا هو خصيم مبين وضرب لنا مثلا ونسي خلقه قال من يحيي العظام وهي رميم قل يحييها الذي أنشأها أول مرة وهو بكل خلق عليم الذي جعل لكم من الشجر الأخضر نارا فإذا أنتم منه توقدون أوليس الذي خلق السماوات والأرض بقادر على أن يخلق مثلهم بلى وهو الخلاق العليم إنما أمره إذا أراد شيئا أن يقول له كن فيكون فسبحان الذي بيده ملكوت كل شيء وإليه ترجعون آمنا بالله صدق الله العلي العظيم الفاتحة مع الصلوات
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
Please recite the salawat.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
So, Assalamu alaikum, everyone. First of all, on behalf of the whole administration of IABA, I want to welcome everyone here on campus. This is the first time we are doing something on campus in a while, so please try to comply with all the SOPs. We try to make everything safe, but we apologize for any inconvenience that might have been caused. So, inshallah, we pray that we all will be able to return to IABA campus in no time under normal circumstances. So for Urban series, we will have Sheikh Abbas Ismael from England join us for the next few days. And inshallah, I'll invite Brother Mehdi for some poetry in Urdu. If anyone from Farsi or Arabic wants to recite Latmiya, please let me know. Please recite aloud salawat as I invite Brother Mehdi. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa
Fatiha. जब के दरबार में नामों से पैगंबर आए, जब के दरबार में नामों से पैगंबर आए, बाल खोले हुए बेमकनो चादर आए, सर के बालों से छुपाए रुखे अनवर आए, बेड़ियां थामे हुए आबिद मुज़तर आए, सख्त आफत में गिरफ्तार वो सब खुश थे, रीसमा एक थी और आगा कई बाजू थे, रसने जुल्म से छिलते थे यतीमों के गले, सहमे जाते थे कशाकश में वो नाजों के पले, माए आफत में गिरफ्तार थी क्या जोर चले, रोके आबिद ने रोके देखा कभी आबिद को कभी हाथ मले, शिमर कहता था के हाकिम का गजब आएगा, कैदियों में कोई रोया तो सजा पाएगा, शिमर को देख के बोला वो अली का दुश्मन, खोल दे कैदियों के गर्दन बाजू से रसन, जब छुटी बंदे रसन से वो गिरफ्तारे महन, तब सकीना ने लिया कुर्ते का मुंह पर दामन, बाप के गम में दिलेजार जो तन में तड़पा, ऐसा रोई के सरे पाक लगन में तड़पा,
बोला हाकिम के निहायत है तुझे बाप की चाह, तख्त के नीचे ये क्या दश्त में है कर तो निगाह, पास जाकर जो लगी देखने बाना लो आ, खून में डूबा हुआ उसको नजर आया सरशाह, दश्त पर गिर के पुकारी के ये हालात का है, लो फूफी जान यही सर तो मेरे बाप का है, गोद में लेके जो सर इब्ने अली चिल्लाई, इन खुली आंखों के कुर्बान तुम्हारी जाई, ऐसे भूले के न बेटी भी तुम्हें याद आई, इतनी मुद्दत में ये क्या शक्ल मुझे दिखलाई, क्या खामोशी है लबे लाल तो खोलो बाबा, क्या गजब हो गया कुछ मुंह से तो बोलो बाबा, तीर इस चांद से माथे पर लगाया किसने, हल्क पर खंजर बेदात फिराया किसने, खून इस गर्दन नाजुक का बहाया किसने, छोटे से सिन में मुझे तुमसे छुड़ाया किसने, अम्मा सर पीटती है क्या उन्हें समझाऊं मैं, आओ कुर्ते में छुपा कर तुम्हें ले जाऊं मैं, अम्मा सर पीटती है क्या उन्हें समझाऊं मैं, आओ कुर्ते में छुपा कर तुम्हें ले जाऊं मैं, जब के दरबार में नामों से पैगंबर आए, अल्लाह लानतुल्लाहि अलल कौमिज़ ज़ालिमीन।
Assalamu alaikum, brothers and sisters. Thank you again for joining us here tonight, and thank you especially for following the procedures and registering ahead of time. Inshallah, if these procedures work well, then there will be plenty more in-person programs to come, as long as we can make sure that we're maintaining the safety and social distancing and everyone is cooperating. So just a couple of announcements. One, please make sure you keep your mask on at all times during the program. Number two, please make sure you're keeping safe distance, except of course from those who you came with that are in your household. Number three, when the program is done, there's going to be tabarruk, but it's strictly to go. It's going to be in to go brown bags and boxes. So what we'll do is we'll be excusing the last row first, starting with the ladies in the back. And then as each row clears the area, then we'll start excusing other rows. Go ahead and pick up your food and then head straight to your car and head home. There's no provision here for sitting and eating or also for even standing around and socializing in groups. So please go ahead and take the food and then head home. Thank you very much. Enjoy the program, inshallah. Salawat.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين، خاتم النبيين شفيع المذنبين رحمة للعالمين مولانا وسيدنا أبي القاسم محمد اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المنتجبين المذلومين الهداة المهديين لا سيما بقية الله في الأرض أرواحنا له الفداء ولعنة الله على أعدائهم أجمعين من الآن إلى قيام يوم الدين أما بعد فقد قال الله سبحانه وتعالى في قرآنه المجيد وفرقانه الحميد وقوله الحق بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم حتى إذا جاء أحدهم الموت قال رب ارجعوني لعلي أعمل صالحا فيما تركت كلا إنها كلمة هو قائلها ومن ورائهم برزخ إلى يوم يبعثون محمد وآل محمد صلوات اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. Respected elders, brothers and sisters of our lovely community of Austin, Texas, Salamun alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I'm indeed honored and privileged to be speaking with you this Ashra Zainabiyya, the Ashra of Arba'een, from tonight up to the day of Arba'een, inshaAllah. And I remember very fondly my memories from when I came there a few years ago, of course, before the world was changed by this pandemic that we are going through. And it was a lovely community. I had a great experience there. The people were very welcoming and warm. And it really stays in the memory, your warmth and kindness. And it's an honor, like I said, to be speaking to you once again. Although times have changed and our medium of communication has now changed, but alhamdulillah, credit to you, credit to all the mu'mineen, that you are finding a way of somehow managing to keep up the aza and the mourning of Abu Abdullah. These next few speeches of mine will be delivered on a particular topic, so we're going to try and make this into a series of talks. The day of Arba'een, of course, is the day of pure emotion and mourning over our beloved Imam and his family. But at least these 4 lectures, I can say that we have a topic and we're going to explore this topic, and inshallah you'll find this very interesting, beneficial, inshallah, that is my hope. The verse which I've just recited to you is from Surah number 23, verses 99 to 100. Allah says, Hatta idha ja'a ahadahumul maut. Allah describes a scene when a person's death comes to them. He says, when death comes to one of them, he says, Qala, Rabbi irji'un, my Lord, take me back. La'alli a'malu salihan, that I may act righteously in what I left behind. In other words, I left behind possessions, wealth, money, all of these things I left behind. If you send me back now, I will do some good things with these things. I know in my life I didn't give enough charity, I didn't do enough good, I didn't prioritize things that should have been prioritized, but now that my death has come, give me some time, send me back into the world, I will do these things. Allah replies, Kalla, by no means. Innaha kalimatun huwa qailuha. These are just words. He's not serious. Even if we sent him back right now, he would go in the same way and live the same kind of life. He would not do anything differently. Kalimatun huwa qailuha. These are just words that he says. Wa min wara'ihim barzakhun. Ahead of them now is barzakh. Barzakh means barrier. Ila yawmi yub'athun, until the day that they will be resurrected on the day of judgment. Our subject, therefore, in the light of these verses of the Holy Quran, is going to be around the realities of death, Barzakh, and the hereafter. Now, I don't think we will get to the stages of the hereafter, because Barzakh and death itself is a long discussion, but maybe we can touch on some of the things of the hereafter if we can get there in the content of these lectures. But let us start with discussing death and Barzakh first, because this is the immediate thing that is in front of us. Everyone is going to die, and everyone will have to go through some form of Barzakh, some form of that intermediate realm. The Christians have a name for this realm. They call it purgatory. In Islam, we don't quite agree with this. We don't quite agree with the notion that that time period in between this world and the final world is purgatory with all those Christian elements. But they have a form of understanding of Barzakh. In these lectures, we'll discuss a deeper understanding, the Islamic understanding. So let us begin. The first thing I want to mention in this series is, if you can, do a search, and if you can, buy the book, which is a book called Life After Life. Life After Life. And that's a very interesting title, and we'll come on to that inshallah during these talks, that why is life after life a very apt and very good way of summarizing what we are talking about. Life after life. Usually people say life after death. Okay, so this is a book, Life After Life, written in 1975 by someone called Raymond Moody, and it's a compilation that he did of the experiences of people that went through the process of dying, so their last moments or their last few days or hours, or those who had narrowly escaped death. So they had some kind of near-death experience or near-death phenomenon. In 1981, the International Association for Near-Death Studies was founded. In 1992, Gallup, the famous sociologist, he reported that 8 million people in the USA had an NDE, near-death experience. And even though people are reluctant to talk about it, he managed to gather this data, which shows that, you know, this is something that really people are going through, people are experiencing, people are then also talking about it afterwards, even though it's a little bit of a taboo, scary subject. Now, if you look at those studies, if you look at those experiences, if you look at that book, we find some very interesting things. I'm going to summarize the most common elements and just touch upon them, and then we'll see, is there an Islamic correlation to these things or not? And you'll find that in fact, yes, Islam and what Islam says and our understanding of these things greatly corroborates and correlates with these experiences. So what did they find with these NDE studies, talking to people, speaking with them afterwards? We find some commonalities. The first common thing that we find is that people report that in our process of NDE, when we had our near-death experience, we found that we somehow emerged from our own body, yet we felt fully conscious and aware. And, for example, those who had roadside accidents or paramedics and ambulance staff had to operate, or doctors had to operate on them, they said that we found ourselves emerging from the body and we were looking down and we could observe the actions of the team of doctors below who were working on our bodies. So this is one common thing that people report, a kind of exit from their body, a higher position, looking down, looking at the doctors operating on the body. Another commonality we find is that people say, we found that we had a different type of body. We had left our material body and now we were sort of in a new kind of body. That's very interesting. We will refer to this body later on as the Barzakhi body. or some people call it the spiritual body. Okay, but it's a different body than our standard physical body that we have in this world. Another thing very interesting that they report is that they said during this NDE, when we were away from our own bodies, we were exiting our bodies, we felt that we had lost all sense of time. We felt a kind of deep sense of relaxation, but at the same time, a slight confusion about what was going on. We couldn't put the pieces together. We couldn't make sense exactly of what was going on, but they felt a deep sense of relaxation. Another thing that they report is that they could see during these times, these moments, they could see the souls of previously deceased people welcoming them. So they could see some form, image or soul or some form of previously deceased people who were waiting for them and welcoming them. Some who were religious reported that they saw a personality from their own religion waiting for them, meeting them, speaking to them. Some who were in settings such as hospitals, they report that we could see and hear our relatives around our body. We could hear what they were saying, we could see what they were doing, but they couldn't hear us, we couldn't communicate, but we could hear everything. Now, a lot of this corroborates Islamic understanding. What is the Islamic understanding? Well, here we need to make a few things clear, if you allow me. So first of all, we need to state a caveat to all of these discussions that we're going to have. The caveat is that we in Islam, like every other thing, okay, we take different pieces of information from different places within our scriptures, in hadith, in the reports of the Ma'sumin, in the Quran. We take all of these different fragmented pieces of information and we pull them together to give us a grand picture of what is going on. This is true for many parts of Islam, but especially something like this, because no one has gone through this and then reported back. So we have to use the information that we have to build a picture, almost like a jigsaw puzzle. We take different pieces and hopefully that forms for us a picture. So this is our effort, this is our best effort that we can do, and the scholars have done a lot of work on this, and may Allah bless them. And this is a kind of piecing together of all the different pieces, and then we emerge with an Islamic picture and understanding of this thing called NDE or death or Barzah. So then, why should we have any reliance on this? Who's to say that these pieces are fit together rightly, or that this is a good understanding? You speak to many different schools of thought, many different philosophies out there, Western ways of thinking. They'll say there's probably nothing at the end of this life. Live your life to the fullest. Enjoy every moment. Party, drink, do what you want. Why are you worrying about life after death or life after life? You don't need to worry about these things. There's probably nothing at the end of this. We say no. We say from our understanding, we have a few principles. Number one, we say that it doesn't make sense. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala creating us, creating this world around us, and then it all comes to an end after maybe 60, 70, 80 years on average. Some people die in infancy, in childhood, before they're even teens, before they're even baligh. It doesn't make sense for us. So we believe that man is in a constant state of journey and evolution. Wherever he is, wherever he is, whichever world he's in, he's always journeying towards a better outcome, a better state of being for himself. Man is always in a state of journeying and evolution. He's always evolving, he's always trying to get better. Number two, once upon a time, we were babies in the wombs of our mothers. For us, that was everything. You tell a baby in the womb, which is surrounded by fluid and darkness and warmth and comfort and limited space, whose food and drink and everything comes to this baby through an unknown means. You tell it, after 9 months you're going to emerge. You're going to emerge into something called earth. And you will see so many new things. You'll see the natural world, you'll see people, you'll see animals, you'll see greenery, colors, smells, different microbes, germs, substances. All of these things will be there. He'll say, what? Can't be. My world is this small, liquidy, warm place that I'm in. This nice little safe place. So in the same way, what we say in Islam is that this world, magnificent though it is, wonderful and mesmerizing though it is, and we are always finding out new things about this world, it is like we're in the womb of our mothers. We will be exposed eventually at the end of our life in this world to a huge, massive, unbelievable, unfathomable place. The same way that the baby could not fathom that it can come out of its mother's womb and be into this earth, even we sometimes, we cannot fathom, we cannot understand. And people generally around us, they will be, no, there can't be anything beyond this. This is everything. We'll say, no, there is a much, much larger, more wonderful, more deep and profound existence to come after this world. The next point is that we see in our life, we are born, we are weak. We need a lot of nurturing, we need feeding, we need pampering, we need upbringing. Then there comes a time in our adolescence, for example, we are very strong. We are able to do many things. We are at the peak of our physical health. And then over time, as years pass, as days pass, as weeks pass, all of a sudden we start to lose our senses, our teeth, our hair. We are more prone to illness. Our bones become brittle. Our memory fails. We become incapacitated. We become disabled. And then we eventually leave this world. So when we leave, where will we go? Will it be a bigger place, better place, worse place? Who can answer these questions? So here, one group of people in this world, they say, no, we have no idea. Sorry, we don't know. We think this is it. And if there's anything beyond this, we have no idea what it is. So they have no evidence. They speak from a position of lack of knowledge. And because they have lack of knowledge, it's easy for them to say there's nothing else after this. But we say no. We have a group of people who have given us pieces of this puzzle, and when we put them all together, we get the full understanding as best as we can from our ability. Who are these people? Prophets and Imams. These two groups of people over the course of the history of this world, from Nabi Adam to the last Prophet to the last Imam, and they have given us bits and bobs of information, and Quran is there and it gives us more information. So the Prophets always emphasize this. They speak from a position of knowledge. So the people who say we don't know what's coming after this world, or we assume there's nothing after this world, they are speaking from a position of ignorance. They don't know any better. So for them it's very easy to say that there's nothing to come. But we say no, we know better. We have been told certain things, and we will analyze those things in these lectures. So the Prophets always emphasized, they kept on telling people, we know what is to come. We know some of the realities that await you. They had the knowledge, they had the perception. A question comes here, an aqaidi question. Okay, many youths ask the same thing. How do we prove that the Prophets knew what they were talking about? These Prophets lived thousands of years ago. How can we ever prove to someone that these Prophets knew what they were talking about? Well, there are a number of things we can do. Number one, look how consistent the Prophets were in their messages. So this is a time before technology, before mass communication, before uploading things on the internet was a norm. This is thousands of years ago. prophets lived hundreds of years after each other. There were gaps of hundreds of years between prophets. Or if they lived at the same time, there were hundreds of miles between them. There's no chance all of these prophets could have got together. Distance of time and place prohibited them from coming together and coming up with a narrative and a story. Yet you find amazing consistencies between the prophets. And if you sometimes don't find a consistency, you will never find a contradiction between the prophets. So this is one thing, that these prophets of God came to earth, were born into this world. They were separated by time and place, yet still they are so consistent. Number one. Number two, all of the prophets were known for their utmost honesty. No one could say, we saw a prophet lie, we saw a prophet cheat, we saw a prophet do something which he should not be doing. They hurled some ridiculous allegations at the prophets. But those allegations were very wishy-washy. They didn't stand up. No one really paid much attention to them. Those allegations were done to discredit the prophets as much as possible. But they all stood up to scrutiny. So they were very honest. Okay, they were known for their honesty. That builds credibility, that builds character, that builds trust. Number three, none of the prophets in history you will ever find, nor has anyone reported, that they did anything for selfish motives. They never said, pay us, give us your gold and wealth, give us your possessions, we want to rule over you, vote us in the next election. They didn't make any kind of selfish overtures to people. They always remained very godly, very unselfish, very giving, very brilliant characters in terms of especially their connection with people. Number four, they were not corrupt. They were not part of any grouping or corrupt group or gang or cult. There was no such thing. Number five, they had no vested interest, personal vested interest in what they were doing. This is why the Quran says again and again, whenever it mentions any prophet, the prophet says what? I do not ask you for any reward. My reward is upon Allah, the Lord of the worlds. So they had no vested interest. Number six, they were absolutely trustworthy. And here we can cite the example of our own Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that he was known for his honesty. What were his titles in Makkah? Al-Amin, As-Sadiq. The trusted, the truthful. These were his absolutely fundamental qualities. Whether anyone believed he was a prophet or not is secondary. He was known for his character first and foremost. They may say we don't believe in his prophethood, we don't believe in the God that he's preaching, but we believe that he is an honest and trustworthy person. So much so that they even deposited their belongings for safekeeping with the Holy Prophet. So much so that even they ridiculed him, they abused him, they threatened his life. He was leaving Makkah to go to Medina. What does he do? He calls Amir al-Mu'mineen and he says, Ya Ali, I am leaving, but I have some trusts with me. Before you leave, you must make sure that these trusts are given back to their owners. So they were extremely trustworthy. So what did the Prophet say? The Prophet said that this life hereafter or life after life is coming. He warned the people, be ready for it. Number two, and these are all advices for us. He warned people, be ready for it. So we have to be ready. Number two, he told people, as much as you can, whilst you are alive in this world, become acquainted with death and the hereafter. Don't be one of those people who has no knowledge, no conception, no idea, doesn't know what's going to happen after death. So inshallah, in these lectures we're going to try and become acquainted with death. Number three, he told them, he warned them that your deeds will one day be accounted for. So he brought the reality of the hereafter into this world. And he told people again and again, remember, whatever you're doing is being written, it's being witnessed, it's being recorded. You will have to answer for all of these things. So this is another thing that we want to do in these lectures. We want to emphasize this aspect, that we will be asked about our deeds and we must be ready to answer. And number 4, very, very important, he warned them, do not oppress another person. Because when you oppress another person, you are now at the ransom of that other person. Allah cannot forgive an injustice done to another person. He can forgive lapses and sins done against him. But when we do it against another person, that is for the other person to forgive. So Rasulullah was very strict on this. He said, make sure you do not oppress another person. Now, let us touch upon in this first lecture, now that I've put the introduction of this whole topic in front of you, let us touch upon death itself. Death is, in the Islamic understanding, a way of continuing towards becoming more mature, more sophisticated, and more advanced in our potential and in ourselves. So it's a continuation towards maturity and evolution of the soul. And the human soul itself is very complex. And even today we have to hold up our hands and say we don't fully understand the soul. We only understand aspects of it. The full understanding of the soul we do not have. Most people do not have. But this life provides us the opportunity to study, think, reflect, contemplate and understand the soul. And this is the key part of life and death. Life gives us the opportunity to understand the soul and to understand Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But here's the thing. If it is not done during this life, then it will be done after death. So if we fail somehow to appreciate and understand our souls, then we will have to go through a process after death in which we will be taught somehow or the other, either through painful processes or through reasonable processes. We will have to be taught the understanding of soul and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So after death, where do we enter to gain this more understanding and see the further maturation of the soul? We enter into Barzah. Now, what constitutes death? So if you ask a doctor or a medic right now and you say to them, please define death, they will give you the standard medical definition of death. What is death? In a physical sense, when the heartbeat stops and the blood ceases to flow, a person dies. Physically, this is death. The heartbeat stops, the blood stops to flow, that person is now dead. But what about spiritually? What is the Islamic definition of death? That's the physical definition. But in an Islamic sense, death is what? Death is the time when the soul decouples or splits, but I prefer the term decouple. The soul decouples from the body. Okay? So the soul and the body are very closely linked while we are alive. The soul is somehow encased within the body. Usually we point to this area, the chest. This is another interesting point, that all of the people that kind of gave their reports to the sociologists who did these studies, they all kind of reported that when our soul was suspended, or when our soul was high and we were looking down upon our bodies, there seemed to be a kind of silver cord. Why silver? I don't know. But some kind of silver cord which joined us, body and soul, together. And we could see that that emerged from the chest of the body. That's why usually when we say life, we point to this area. Maybe that's why the heart is also in this area. The heart is also responsible for the physical life of the body. Allahu A'lam, Allah knows best. But spiritually speaking, death occurs when the soul decouples from the body. And how does this happen? This happens with the help of the angel of death. The soul and body need each other in this world. But once the soul decouples totally from the body is when it now needs a new body, and that will be our discussion for tomorrow. Now this decoupling, it happens with the help of the angel of death. But we decouple from the body quite a lot. During our lives, actually, if you think about it, there is a moment of decoupling which happens quite often. It is when we sleep. This is why you'll see that in the Quran also it says that at night we take the souls from their body. Some of them we return back to the body, some of them we keep. Okay? So what does that mean? That means that our understanding of this is that during sleep we see all sorts of images in our mind, right? We see dreams. Okay? Now these dreams are what? So some scholars have said that when you sleep, you actually go through a kind of mini death, right? Your body is motionless, it's still, you're not doing anything. Okay, so that's like a kind of death. The other aspect of this is that the soul comes out of the body, and when it comes out of the body, it kind of enters into Barzah, or that Barzakhi world, right? And when it enters into Barzakh, you immediately see some of the characteristics of what we reported in the beginning of this lecture. Have you noticed, for example, how in dreams time doesn't seem to flow properly? In a 2-hour dream, you can live a 2-week of life. In an instant in a dream, you could be in Austin, then in the next second you could be in London, in the next second you could be in Sydney, Australia, in the next second you could be on the moon and on Mars and wherever else. So time and place kind of becomes weird. It's a bit confusing. When we wake up, we're kind of struggling to put this dream together. We're kind of struggling to remember it. It doesn't make sense. It's a bit weird. This could be because the soul has exited the body and gone into Barzakh, seen certain things. Time doesn't make sense. Certain visions don't make sense. Certain things which happen in the dream are difficult to speak about and difficult to recollect. And then when we wake up, our soul is back in the body. So what's the difference between sleep and death? This is because the cord or whatever is attaching us to the body has not been severed. Had that been severed, we would have died. But it's not severed, it's returned back into the body, and therefore we are alive again the next day. And that next day, waking up, again it mirrors Qiyamah and waking up from the grave, etc. So these should be all reminders to us on a daily basis about death, the hereafter, the grave, Barzakh, etc. So this was our introduction to today. We covered some of the statistics on NDE, near-death experience, some of what people have experienced, some of what Islam has said about it, how we come to these conclusions, and we've had a little bit about death, how to define death in Islam, and a little bit about the world of Barzakh. Now tomorrow what I want to do in tomorrow's lecture is we're going to look at death in a bit more detail, how death happens, why there are different experiences of death, what the Quran says about death, the detachment of body and soul, why is that an issue for some people, why some people's soul are taken very easily and quickly, others are not taken very easily and quickly, and we will have some more discussions inshallah ta'ala. Muhammad wa ali Muhammad salawat. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. These are of course the days and nights relating to the family of Abu Abdullah al-Hussain alayhi salam, their painful journey from Karbala to Kufa to Sham, and then in Sham the trials and tribulations that they went through. If we were to remember one of these personalities who can really accurately give us that horrific picture of what they went through, then we would look at the young daughter of Imam Hussain alayhi salam. Some people call her Ruqayya. Usually in the Urdu speaking world we know her as Sakina. So this Janab Sakina, this lady Sakina, was one of the very young children of the caravan of Imam Hussain alayhi salam. She was, from what we know of history, very much attached to Imam Hussain. She was someone very much, she would be in the company of her father, and her father loved her company because she was said to be a very sweet child with a very sweet voice and very lovely innocence. Now, we pick up the story of Hazrat Sakina, Bibi Sakina, on the night of Ashura, the night after Ashura that we call Sham-e Ghariba. Here it is that you see the ladies of Ahlul Bayt really taking their positions as those who carried the message of Abu Abdullah, of those who kept the message alive. Had the ladies not done this, the message of Imam would have been buried in Karbala along with Imam. But they had the courage to take this forward. So what do we see in this young girl's history, this heartbreaking history that we see? We see first of all that as soon as Abu Abdullah falls from the horse, he is lying on the sands of Karbala. Now those of you who have been to Karbala, you know that in the haram of Imam Hussain, it's a unique haram. You'll see within the walls, near the Zari of Abu Abdullah, you'll see a kind of passage or a kind of ground that they have kept there. And you look through the glass and you can see that. What is that? That is known in Urdu Farsi as Qatlagah, Maqtal, the place of the murder of Imam Hussain. But why is it such a big area? Why is it such a spread out area? This was asked to Ayatollah Bahjat. They said, Agha, we understand Imam Hussain alayhi salam was killed, but what is this Qatlagah? What is this area? Why isn't it just a small place? If you're going to kill someone, it's in one place. Why is it such a big area? He said, no. He said on the day of Ashura, when Hussain fell from the horse, some people said he's dead. Some people said, no, he's not dead. We should check it and we should finish him if he's not dead. Imam Hussain at that moment was alive. No one had the guts to come forward and to kill Abu Abdullah. So someone gave a suggestion. They said Hussain loves his family. He loves the women of the haram very much. His sisters, his wives, his daughters, his nieces, they are all there in the tents. Let us start to walk towards the tents. And if he is alive, he will never allow this to happen. This is how much honor he has for his women. So they began on that day of Ashura to ride and walk towards the tents. When Abu Abdullah became aware of this, he began to slowly stand up and said, no, our agreement is you are not to attack the tents while I am alive. I am still alive. Come and fight me. And in this way, those steps he took, and crawling maybe, and walking a bit, and falling, and getting up again, and falling again, those steps and that walk that he did, that is the area of Qatlagah. Eventually, of course, they murder Abu Abdullah, and then once they are sure that his head has been severed, and now he is dead, they begin to ride towards the tents. But they don't just attack the tents. They don't just loot the tents. They begin to burn the tents. On Sham-e Ghariba, after Sham-e Ghariba, many years later, when Mukhtar took the revenge of Karbala, they say that when he came to Shimr, he had a conversation with Shimr. Mukhtar had a conversation with all of the murderers of that day. He got them one by one and he told them that before I kill you, I want you to tell me what you did on that day. When he came across Shimr, he says, Shimr, tell me, what did you do? Shimr says, I cannot tell you some of the things that I did. Mukhtar says, no, I command you. I am going to kill you, but I want you to tell me each and everything you did. One of the things that Shimr mentions is, he says, on the eve after killing Hussain, when we attacked the tents of the ladies, at one point I saw a young girl running. She was running from tent to tent. There was a chaos. There were people riding, there were horses, there was fire being put on the tents. And I saw that this girl, when she was running, in her ears she had earrings. And I said, these are very pretty earrings. They would look good on my own daughter. So let me take them from her. I went to the girl, I grabbed her, and I took the earrings in my fingers, and I snatched them off the ears. The ear lobe split. There was blood everywhere. She looked at me and she said, if you had asked me for them, I would have gladly given you my earrings. This is Sakina bintul Hussain. This is the beloved daughter of Abu Abdullah. In the prison, after everything, after all the trials and tribulations of Karbala and Kufa, and the journey, when they reach into Sham, her death is there in the prison of Sham. But before she dies, it is said that she has a dream. In her dream, she sees her father. She begins to cry and weep. She wakes up screaming. The head of Abu Abdullah is sent to Sakina. When she sees the head, she hugs the head. She asks 3 questions to the head. She says, Baba, tell me, who has made me yatim and who has deprived me from your company? Number 2, Baba, tell me, how did the blood of my brother Aliyun al-Asghar come upon your face and upon your beard? And then some Zakireen have said that she said to Imam Hussain, Baba, do you remember those earrings that you had given me? Baba, they were snatched from me on the night after you were killed. Allah la'natullahi al-qawmi al-zalimin wa sayalamu alladhina zalamu ayya munqalibin yanqalibun. We pray for all of our community wherever they are. May Allah protect them during these times of coronavirus. Those who are afflicted and sick from this illness or other illnesses, oh Allah, we ask you to give them shifa. Oh Allah, hasten the reappearance of our 12th Imam. Make us be in his closest company and companions when he comes. Oh Allah, help our community wherever they are. Keep us united. Protect all of the mu'mineen. Protect all of the ulama and the maraji. Oh Allah, allow those zawar who have gone to Karbala this year to come back safe and sound. Not for there to be any incident, not to be any outbreak of this illness over there, inshallah. Oh Allah, when it is safe and proper for us to do so, allow us to visit Karbala again. Allow us to gather again in our mosques and our centers. Allow us once again to practice the Aza of Abu Abdullah properly together as mu'mineen, inshallah. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Matame Hussain.
सुनाई किसने ये जिंदा में लोरी सकीना सो रही है सुनाई किसने ये जिंदा में लोरी सकीना सो रही है खुदारा जोर से बोले न कोई सकीना सो रही है सुनाई किसने ये जिंदा में लोरी सकीना सो रही है कहा बानों ने उठो शाहज़ादी हुई क्या बात जो मादर से रूठी उठो बाबा का सर आया है बीबी उठो बाबा का सर आया है बीबी मगर जिंदा की हर दीवार बोली
सकीना सो रही है, सुनाई किसने ये जिंदा में लोरी, सकीना हो रही है। तुम्हारे गोशवारे मिल गए हैं, दरे जिंदान सारे खुल गए हैं, रिहाई मिल गई जाती हूँ घर को, रिहाई मिल गई जाती हूँ घर को, मगर सज्जाद की आवाज आई, सकीना सो रही है, सुनाई किसने ये जिंदा में लोरी, सो रही है। न अब मारेगा कोई भी तमाचे, न होंगे फिर से ये रुखसार नीले, गला बांधा न जाएगा रसन में, गला बांधा न जाएगा रसन में, जो आया शेम्र तो उससे कहूंगी, सकीना सो रही है, सुनाई किसने ये जिंदा में लोरी, सो रही है। रसन का जख्म अश्कों से धुला दूं, तेरे बालों से ये मिट्टी छुड़ा दूं, तेरे तलवों के छालों की दवा दूं, तेरे तलवों के छालों की दवा दूं, अजल बोली के ये कैसे चलेगी, सकीना सो रही है, सुनाई किसने ये सकीना सो रही है। हुए जब शाम के साए भी गहरे, परिंदे चहचहाते जा रहे थे, कहा बानों ने उड़ते परिंदों, कहा बानों ने उड़ते परिंदों, सदाएं रोक लो कुछ देर अपनी, सकीना सो रही है, सुनाई किसने ये जिंदा में लोरी, सो रही है। अंधेरा रो या सन्नाटे से मिलकर, फलक गिरने लगा धरती के ऊपर, हिलाने पर भी जब बच्ची न जागी, हिलाने पर भी जब बच्ची न जागी, तो बोली ये फिजाओं की खामोशी, सकीना सो रही है, सुनाई किसने ये जिंदा में लोरी, सकीना सो रही है, खुदारा जोर से बोले न कोई, सकीना सो रही है। हुसैन 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 हुसैन। शाम का बाजार आबिद बीमार, शाम का बाजार आबिद बीमार, शाम का बाजार आबिद बीमार। पाँव में बेड़ी तौके गराबार, शाम का बाजार आबिद बीमार, शाम का बाजार आबिद बीमार। भूलेगा न वो मंजर नेज़े पे सरे सरवर, भूलेगा न वो मंजर नेज़े पे सरे सरवर। बेमखना बेचादर बलवे में फूफी मादर, और मजमे कुफ्फार। शाम का बाजार, शाम का बाजार आबिद बीमार, शाम का बाजार आबिद बीमार, शाम का बाजार आबिद बीमार। बाजार की ज़ेबाई कोठों पे तमाशाई, बाजार की ज़ेबाई कोठों पे तमाशाई। आदा की सफाराई और आलम तन्हाई, वो बेकसो लाचार आबिद बीमार, शाम का बाजार आबिद बीमार, शाम का बाजार आबिद बीमार। दरबार में सरउरियां आते हैं हरम गिरियां, दरबार में सरउरियां आते हैं हरम गिरियां। उठने लगा एक तूफान, महशर का सा है सामा, जुम्बिश में है दरबार आबिद बीमार, शाम का बाजार आबिद बीमार, शाम का बाजार आबिद बीमार। भूपाई तो घबरा कर बच्ची ने कहा रोकर, भूपाई तो घबरा कर बच्ची ने कहा रोकर। इस कष्ट में है जो सर, वो तो है सरे सरवर, कैसे करूं दीदार आबिद बीमार, शाम का बाजार आबिद बीमार, शाम का बाजार आबिद बीमार। हाकिम ने ये सुन पाया तो और सितम ढाया, हाकिम ने ये सुन पाया तो और सितम ढाया। सरपोश को सरकाया और बच्ची को दिखलाया, चिल्लाई वो एक बार आबिद बीमार, शाम का बाजार आबिद बीमार, शाम का बाजार आबिद बीमार। कुछ शिमर से फरमा दो गर्दन मेरी खुलवा दो, कुछ शिमर से फरमा दो गर्दन मेरी खुलवा दो। सर बाबा का दिलवा दो या उसको ये समझा दो, मारे न सितमगार आबिद बीमार, शाम का बाजार आबिद बीमार, शाम का बाजार आबिद बीमार। सर जाके उठाऊं मैं बाबा को बुलाऊं मैं, सर जाके उठाऊं मैं बाबा को बुलाऊं मैं। रुदा सुनाऊं मैं, सीने शाम का बाजार आबिद बीमार, शाम का बाजार आबिद बीमार। दुख्तर की सदा सुनकर इस तश्त तला से सर, दुख्तर की सदा सुनकर इस तश्त तला से सर, गोदी में गया उठकर नादान ने लिपटा कर, सर पर रुके रुखसार आबिद बीमार, शाम का बाजार आबिद बीमार, शाम का बाजार आबिद बीमार। जब बाबा का सर पाया दिल बच्ची का भर आया, जब बाबा का सर पाया दिल बच्ची का भर आया, हर जुल्म को दोहराया लोगों ने जो सुन पाया, आंखें हुई खुबार आबिद बीमार, शाम का बाजार आबिद बीमार, शाम का बाजार आबिद बीमार। जिंदा में अनी से गम करते हैं हरम मातम, जिंदा में अनी से गम करते हैं हरम मातम। माँ पूछती है पैगाम क्यों आँख है ये पुरनाम, क्या मर गई दिलदार आबिद बीमार, शाम का बाजार आबिद बीमार, शाम का बाजार आबिद बीमार। पाँव में बेड़ी तौके गराबार, शाम का बाजार आबिद बीमार, शाम का बाजार आबिद बीमार। Hussain, 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 Hussain.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. तवज्जो ज़्यादा।
السلام عليك يا نبي الله، السلام عليك يا رسول الله، السلام عليك يا صاحب السفينة، السلام عليك أيها المدفون في المدينة ورحمة الله وبركاته، السلام عليك يا بضعة رسول الله، السلام عليك يا فاطمة الزهراء سيدة نساء العالمين وقرة عين الرسول ورحمة الله وبركاته، السلام عليك يا أمير المؤمنين ويعصوب الدين علي بن أبي طالب ووصي رسول الله ورحمة الله وبركاته، السلام عليكم أيها الحسن والحسين سبتي نبي الرحمة وسيدي شباب أهل الجنة أجمعين ورحمة الله وبركاته، السلام عليك يا مولاي يا أبا عبد الله وعلى الأرواح التي حلت بفنائك عليكم جميعا سلام الله أبدا ما بقيت وبقي الليل والنهار، ولا جعله الله آخر العهد مني لزيارتكم، السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين، السلام عليكم جميع شهداء كربلاء ورحمة الله وبركاته، السلام عليكم أئمة المعصومين من ذرية الحسين، السلام عليك يا علي بن الحسين زين العابدين، السلام عليك يا محمد بن علي باقر العلم النبيين، السلام عليك يا جعفر بن محمد الصادق الأمين، السلام عليك يا موسى بن جعفر كاظم غيبه على مختين، السلام عليك علي بن موسى الرضا راض بقدري والقضاء، السلام عليك يا محمد بن علي الجواد التقي. السلام عليك يا علي بن محمد الهادي النقي. السلام عليك أيها الإمام المتقين حسن بن علي العسكري. السلام عليك يا حجة بن الحسن. السلام عليك يا مولاي يا صاحب العصر والزمان. السلام عليك يا خليفة الرحمن. السلام عليك يا شريك القرآن. السلام عليك يا إمام الإنس والجان. عجل الله تعالى فرجك وسهل الله تعالى مخرجك وظهورك، وجعل الله من أعوانك وأنصارك المستشهدين بين يديك وتحت لوائك. السلام عليكم يا أهل بيت النبوة وموضع الرسالة جميعا ورحمة الله وبركاته. Please recite Surah Fatiha for all of the marhum from among the mu'mineen and mu'minat, and also for the cure of all of the mu'mineen and mu'minat and anyone who is restricted with the COVID-19. Al-Fatiha ma'as-salawat.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
So inshallah, we will gather here on Wednesday as well. And we will also have online programs till Thursday for those who cannot come on Wednesday here in person. And
At this time, starting with the ladies in the back row, if you all can move towards the tabarruk and then go ahead and head out. Again, thank you very much to all mu'mineen, mu'minat who came. Assalamu alaikum.